Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 252, and today we're doing battle with Kindred, Viego, Freylord. And so I think this is an interesting deck, not just this one, but the Shadow Isles Freylord decks that have been popping up here in recent days. If you're a daily follower and you caught our playthrough of the Mastering Runeterra Open, you saw us get absolutely domed by Drissoth playing the Kindred Ash deck, and this deck has a lot of similarity to that. And the kind of ideas with these and the reasons that these can be good against both Aatrox Kayn and Ezreal Seraphine are in the kind of selection of removal. We'll stop and talk about Quietus in a moment, and then the way that the opponent is able to try and control the board and attack down our plays. And so to that first piece, if we're thinking about Aatrox Vayne, the way that their typical game plan goes is they're going to drop some early game challengers, right? They're going to put down a challenger bird, whatever the one drop is called. They'll play a Petricite Broadwing. They'll play a Quinn bird. Try to load those up with either the tough equipment or the quick attack equipment, and then really limit your attacks. They're typically able to challenge down your smaller plays and then stop you from attacking back because their units have tough. Like it's a very challenging collection of units to try and run into. But if you can either just straight up kill the unit with Quietus, or if you can keep the equipment in check with either Quietus or Fracture, then your opponent is really kind of limited in the ways that they can interact with your board. If you want to think about terms of Vayne Aatrox, they're down to the strikes. And that kind of brings us into like the second piece of the equation, and these opponents are all doing damage-based removal. And so if you want to think about Ezreal Seraphine, they're playing a bunch of things like Mystic Shot and High Note and Thermogenic Beam. They all do damage-based removal. And then the Aatrox Vayne decks are all using Fish Fights, Single Combats, Condemns, Ways to Strike. And so what this deck is looking to do to kind of combat that angle is just play gigantic dudes. And the most gigantic dudes that you're going to reasonably and effectively get on the board are going to be the encroaching mists coming out of the Viegos. And so the kind of idea when we come in here and tie all of this together, we have the fractures and the quietuses to keep our opponent's early game boards in check. Then we're just dropping bigger units on the board, so their removal spells are all going to be ineffective. And then hopefully, as our board grows and grows and grows with Viego, they just don't have the resources to kind of come in and stop what we're doing. And it's not even crazy to think that your encroaching mist can't just do battle against the various Darken. And so it's a very kind of interesting concept to me that this weird collection of removal spells does work quite nicely against both of the big decks of the format. I'm not entirely certain what exact combo of these champions and cards are going to be the best way to attack it, but this is a very strong way to go about it. The last thing I do want to make note of is the usage of Kindred. As we look to play against these decks, the Ezreal Seraphine deck just doesn't have very many units that come on the board. It's typically just the likes of Ezreal Seraphine, the back alley Barkeep that comes from the back alley bar, and then some smaller dudes like Conchologist and the Oyster Maker. That's so wrong. That's so off. The one cost unit that puts a prank in your hand, whatever he's called, Ferret Keeper, Oyster Maker. I don't remember what it is, but they don't have a strong collection of units, and they are very susceptible to Kindred taking them down. And then a lot of the same idea falls to the Aatrox decks as well. If you're able to limit their board to just 2 units, you have a pretty good shot at taking down one of the big boys and really limiting them and their ability to just drop 6 drops onto the board, or make the big investment of putting Darken equipment on a dude just to have it get killed. And so, interesting stuff, good things. Let's go ahead, jump on into battle, see if we can't have some good games here. But you all know what happens before the battles begin. You must go and pay the pay-to-win price. And today it's going to be the Shape of Fear. Kill an ally, summon an encroaching mist. I've been waiting for the moment to get this new guy out here, and it's ready. It's going to say, hey, dude, come out here and block an Aatrox, sacrifice it away, prevent that 2 health gain, live in the high life. Thank you, encroaching mists. Good stuff. All right, off to battle, running up against Red Gwen. What do we got? It's going to be one of the weaker matchups. You can't be good against everything in the format. If you're going to try and be good against both Aatrox Kayn and be good against Ezreal Seraphine, you're going to suffer somewhere. And here we do suffer a little bit against the aggro decks of the format, but these matchups are still winnable. And so it's just not a supremely high win rate, if you will. But you know what is a pretty high win rate? Dropping this pool party beach board down. It's so cold out here in Kansas City, man. I love it. I love having this nice board. Just has a great music to it. It's all warm and everything. It's like 18 degrees outside today. That's America units, and so it's it's a little chilly. It's a little chilly. If you're using Celsius and saying it's 18 degrees, you're probably just you're probably just headed to the beach, right? That's practically beach weather. All right, but reasonable enough shutdown on this board with the Camaveran Soldier. Don't care about the opposing Vile Feast. It's just these are the spots to where this starts to get nice when we have these bigger units and good blockers and everything on board with what's happening here. Excellent. And we can, potentially build up a decent fracture depending on the status of the 1 health units opponent brings at us. We'll see. I feel pretty good about dropping Kindred, though. This isn't a deck that has tons of removal options to take a Kindred down. It should be able to just come out and hang out on the board for a long time. All right, Butler in. No reason to attack with both units here, right? If he's going to block one, then the Kindred is just going to put the effect in front of another one, and so we're probably not going to get a good block on this Phantom Butler. But, Fracture is ready to go. I would love to see opponent just play some kind of expensive card here and let us take down all of the 1 health units, but he's not going to allow it. It's not very nice, if you ask me. So then the Kindred Strike will go back onto the Spiderling. That's okay. I would suspect opponents... Well, it's not as okay as I want it to be, I guess. If we want to start playing things like Fracture, we're going to lose our Kindred. But we may find ourselves playing a 3 Sisters into the +3/+4 and really protecting our health total. I mean, it looked like opponent was pretty interested there in casting a spell. If he has like another Vile Feast or something. Do we even really care is the question, though. We can overbank 3 here and not feel terrible about it. We can drop a Camaveran Soldier, then drop a Viego next turn. I think that's okay just to go big here. He does have a ton of mana. Wouldn't be surprised to see him kill the Kindred, but... Man, are we just going to make it through? You just drew a unit. You don't draw spells off the Grave Physician. I guess he could pick up a Katarina. But... Oof. So that's all you can say for opponent there. Oof. Alright. Big boys coming to party. Good old Viego. Viego, if you will. I've gotten much better at calling him Viego, but everyone knows in their heart everyone knows in their heart that he should be called Viego. So let's see what opponent does here. He has to do something, right? He's not just going to fall to 1 at this space, and so I assume he's going to put at least 1 blocker forward. I'm curious what his idea with the Midnight Raid is, though. Not really worried about it this turn. It's like, I'm curious if we want to just Vile Feast in the middle of combat, though, so we have a blocker for whatever he plans to Midnight Raid. And then on the next turn, we still have the 3 Sisters to flash freeze whatever high-value play he's going to try and make at us. So the nasty thing we can also do in this combat is we can look to Vile Feast off this Boisterous Host, and that's going to put the Kindred mark back onto the Grave Physician. He was probably intending to just attack with it anyways, but let's go ahead and get it marked up so we can try to remove it. I definitely want to have this Vile Feast token on the board. if he's going to come at us with a Midnight Raid. He's getting up to Hallowed 4. Those are, you know, pretty scary attacks. Okay. Get us a Kindred flip. Get us a an Encroaching Mist out here for old Viego. Not that bad. Ravenous Flock is the card I was kind of suspecting was going to come in. Not too upset about losing our Viego. The Invasive Hydrovine is such a strong unit to throw down in these spaces, but it's not bad. The thing that should be kind of juicy for us here is he doesn't really have the tools to get like a bunch of rallies, get off a bunch of big chain attacks. He should be pretty limited in what he's able to add to the board. Oh, not destroying equipment. I'm okay with him. Are we okay with him having Scout? That's probably not ideal, but like I don't want to be throwing Kindred in front of the Ghastly Band. I kind of feel like this is okay if we just clear out both of these units. Like, he can add another unit and give it Scout, but that starts to be a pretty big ask for the opponent and what they can present for the turn. And if he says, like, plays a 4-drop or a 5-drop, your Eternal Dancer, sure, gives it Scout, we can look to just flash freeze it. So, I'm not going to go for the flash freeze here. I'm going to go for the Entomb so it doesn't get to attack. But feels like a pretty safe spot for us. I guess, well, we could have waited on him to play the Upcycled Rake, right? That was probably a bit preemptive. Oh, he may not attack with it, though. That's close. That's close, I tell you. Alright, see if we can't get out of this mess, though. It is still, like, a little scary if he's going to be dropping a way to rally. Doesn't look like he's quite going to have it now that he's just thrown away his unit, but, you know, I'm a little scared. Not big scared, just a little scared. And now the Rake, sure. So yeah, that was definitely a mistake not bringing the Rake in a little bit earlier, or not waiting on him to play the Rake. I think it would have been a little bit better if it would have been a little bit better if we could have just had it locked in for the turn. Alright, though, Gwen down. We still have some pretty strong blockers for the turn. We know he's going to get to do stuff with the Hallowed Dancers, but that Scout attack is out of the way. We have a decent blocker in the Encroaching Mists. I think it's fine. Scary thing is he's going to, like, attack and get a fresh Gwen off of the Eternal Dancers. Interesting. Still brings back Gwen? Is that who was in there? Oh, with my power or less. That makes sense. So let's see. We're definitely throwing down in front of Bro out here. I think we want to go like this. Or would we rather... Yeah, let's throw Kindred down here, then we will Spirit Journey our Invasive Hydrovine. That's what we want. We just want to Spirit Journey the Gwen, right? Then we only take 2 damage from the Gwen strike. Oh, he does get the Gwen back out of this, though.
On a smaller scale.
This does protect our bro. I think that's a little bit more important here. Okay. Looks like a pretty decent board, right? That Gwen's gonna go away. We got the Kindred, we got the Hydravine. We can play Tarash next turn if we want. Nothing better than getting a big Tarash on the board, right?
I am tired of waiting.
It is temporary. An interplay. Dazzling sunlight.
All right, yeah. If you're fresh to the game, if you're new to it, even if you're not new to it, the Oracle's Eye is a fantastic thing to be able to push on and observe what's about to happen. Lets you just, that's what we were doing when we were casting those Spirit's Journeys. You can see the Oracle's Eye and see how the board's going to finish out. I certainly don't do it enough. I should be definitely doing it more frequently than I do. He's going to fuck this up. You can... Oh, he's already made a Scout attack this turn, right? I was going to say you could put the Rake on Gwen and get the Scout attack and then get a Rally. All right, so the fresh question for next turn is going to be, do we want to play Tarash or do we want to open attack? And I think the open attack is still good. The thing with the opponent's next turn is they can't, like, immediately cause us a problem, right? We can play Tarash, then opponent is going to, like, have to do something. And I think that having to do something is just going to be too slow. So let's get the big boy on board here. Right, if he plays a stun, then we're good. If he wants to, say, play like Katarina, she won't have a rally yet, but the Katarina would be too slow. Just not the greatest options there that he can put forth. I guess the one to really worried about would be if he had the Harrowing. I'm not entirely certain if we would have been able to beat the Harrowing there. That would have been a problem, but... It's just like, if we make an open attack and he blocks one and has a Ravenous Flock for something else and only takes like 3 damage, we don't really have the tools to protect ourselves on the next turn of the game. So it's tough. It's tough. All right, Darius Nar, the old Overwhelm's coming at us. We'll hang on to the Quietus. This is unfortunate. Like, I don't feel like the Quietus is actually going to kill anything. And so we probably just shouldn't have hung on to it. But we'll see what their early game collection of dudes looks like. It's like you typically in Darius Nar play a bunch of 3-attack, 2-drop Overwhelms. And the Quietus won't hit those. But if you're playing like, it's your kind of like secondary filler units that the Quietus should be able to hit. And if we do find ourselves just popping off one of those for 1 mana, it's going to be exceptionally strong. Right, whenever we play this style of deck, you typically always play Omen Hawk, which we're gonna pop with the Quietus here, and then you typically, I at least usually played something like the dude that generates stances is another way to just put a dude on the board. The typical strategy you're looking for with this deck is you want to play a 2-drop on 2, a 2-drop on 3, and then have the mana back for Troll Chant or a combat trick. Hopefully get to take that away from him. Right. All right. I dig the spirits within, the spirit journey, the spirit power. We played that in our video yesterday. All right, awkward ass draw though. Awkward ass draw. Are we really gonna drop a Vengeance in right here? We can wait a little bit. This isn't a high powered unit, but I do want to get something here off of the board. Let's wait and see if he plays an Overwhelm. There it is. This kind of board is Exactly why I was a little bit worried about our quietus. It's just everything's too big, even without. I guess we could have popped a pigeon before the +1/+1 came down, but we're really limited in what we could block there, or what we could take down with it. Disaster, disaster time. Uh-oh. Play something. Play something I can kill, please. All right, I guess we'll take the equipment down. We got to spend the mana on something. Taking down the defensive card isn't really ideal, but we're kind of in a bind here. It's not good going into turn 5 and holding 2 6 cost cards and 2 7 cost cards. Just FYI. A little bit of a knowledge hit for you. Oh, FTP bust out here dropping knowledge bombs on people. And Gnar. Okay. I guess we could draw Vile Feast and not just be dead. That's why I didn't end up playing the Glimpse Beyond in the middle of combat there. If we pick up a Vile Feast or something else, we might have the potential to play it early. Or if we say draw 3 Sisters and have a 3 bank, we have a chance to play it a little bit sooner as well, but that did not come together. GG.
My victory is simply a matter of time.
Do y'all think Viego ever goes to the beach? This pasty-ass white vampire thing? He looks like he does not spend much time in the sun. He does not have a particularly strong tan. Poor guy. That's probably his downfall out here. He's just hoping he can hit the beach, dig his toes into the sand. Just doesn't have the opportunity. Poor thing. All right, we found some decent early game stuff for this one though. The bird. Everybody's bringing the birds today. I love it. I love it.
See the Debastian border from here.
All right. Well,
Ready the torches.
let's try and drop in some of the damage. Take down the Redeemed Prodigy is the important one to have die here. It's going to be tough to take down the pigeon, but it shouldn't be super scary. I say it's going to be tough as we draw the Vile Feast, but it just has that opportunity to keep growing, and it's not like a super high value target to remove. All right, great blockers though. No reason to come in and kill off the Boisterous Host. He's just passing? Okay. I just pass. I'll play that game. You want to pass again? Wow. Okay. This is like, as we're out here playing cards that cost 6 and 7 mana, I'd much rather just sit here and pass as opposed to letting him build up board. Sure. All right. Well, the Hydrovine can come down now. Boop.
No going back.
All right. So the nice thing here, Mark of the Isles, short, is if he starts attacking with this Katarina, we have the Glimpse from Beyond in hand to keep her from getting her strike and returning back. And so losing the Hydrovine's okay. Getting the shutdown on Katarina, especially as opponent has spent like, those full 2 turns just completely passing and not doing anything. He needs to spend his mana on something, and the easiest place to go and spend all of your mana is on Katarina. So glad to see her go. Oh, not go. Glad to see her not return to hand. The Shape of Fear doing its thing.
She waits for me beyond the mist, my queen.
Blood for Noxus.
The Shape of Fear doing its thing. Well, the Gwen is a little bit a little bigger than I was anticipating. We should have checked that Hallowed and played the Chimaveran Soldier. I assumed that we were just going to be able to get out of that one, but a little sloppy, but not the end of the world. Probably is the end of the world actually, but let's see how it goes. Katarina Death Lotus. Interesting. Okay.
Everyone bleed.
I mean, it still keeps her out of combat. He gets to shuffle that extra copy into his deck, but curious why you would want to do that. So we're probably going to Fracture. I would like to kill this Katarina. I'm just a little worried about putting damage onto Viego. And it's probably not necessary. We just start attacking. I mean, that's the spot we want to be in, right? He's already played one Ravenous Flock. I think I'm okay.
Going somewhere.
Alright. So we deal 7. We're getting like really close to just killing him with Atrocity. I think we're going to end up being short. This takes him up to 10. The next Hydra Vine will be 11. We could play Chimaveran Soldier to get him to 12. We may have a spot to where we're going to be one short on mana, it appears. Well, we can drop a Darkened Halberd this turn. Alright, kill an ally, equip Viego. Now he's up to 13. This deck, the opposing deck doesn't typically play Vengeance, and so that should be enough. See what kind of shenanigan they looks to bring forth, but I think we're good here. We can also, if he has a Vile Feast to gain a point of health, we can Shape of Fear to get some more dudes. All right, good stuff. Well done, Viego. Not encountering the decks we were wanting to play. Oh, I guess I really have no desire to play against Seraphine, but the decks that we are looking to be strong against. Maybe everybody's just tired of it, you know? See what they're tired of as we... There we go. It's the Bilgewater version of Seraphine Victor. As the Time Winder is about to come up. I'm always curious about the usage of like scouts and of pirates, given that like I feel like people don't play them enough now just because they're tired of playing it. Just been such a relevant factor in the format for almost 2 years at this point. And as we're about to come up on that Rising Tides Time Winder, I'm really curious to see if people give scouts and pirates their day in the sun, or if they just say, I'm tired of that shit. You know, it's like as people are out playing a bunch of like Anivia decks in the Foundations Time Winder, that kind of makes sense, right? It's not really a real deck in the formats anymore, but scouts and pirates people get kind of tired of. So for this start, I was just hanging on to Quietus. I don't really care about trying to push in early damage. But I want to have access to this 1 point of mana if it comes down to taking down Seraphines, or ideally we should probably just be saving it for Victor, but this early couple of points of damage isn't super relevant.
Ready the torches.
Flame Spitter. Yeah, look how scary that guy is. He's bringing the big damages today. There's an argument to go ahead and fracture that off of the board, but I don't feel like that's really a necessity. Now, I think it's okay to kind of get invested with Kindred here. Opponent hasn't played any removal. A really good chance it just gets hit with a beam or gets hit with a... where is this stuff coming from? It gets hit with a... get excited. But haven't seen it just yet. Okay, sure. It is a little scary taking Kindred down to 2 health, because she does just die to Mystic Shots now, but I think this is okay. Like, if he had a Mystic Shot, why wouldn't he have Mystic Shot our Kindred and then parlayed Kindred? It's just such a more high value unit than our 1/1. Uh-oh, he missed the random enemy.
These old eyes still see far and clear.
Flow, heals for 2. He hit face again. We're gonna get burned out by this thing, man. He's coming at us. All right, let's get aggressive in here. We've got the Quietuses, because ideally we won't have to Vengeance anything this turn, but definitely want to look to get the Invasive Hydrovine on the board next turn. Let's bring it all. Take the trade on our 3/3, it's fine. Just getting to the spot to where we're, you know, maybe lethal on our next attack, especially if his upcoming plays involve like dropping Victors and dropping Seraphines, and we get to actually clear his board with our 1-mana kill cards. It's going to be strong. Say no thank you to Victor. Speaking of all this happy beach music, do y'all ever listen to Jack Johnson? I hope he's still doing well. Back when I was back when I was in college was when Jack Johnson really popped off. All the ladies really liked listening to Jack Johnson. This is very mellow and chill, if you will. It was good, chill music. And if the ladies wanted to listen to it, that meant you wanted to listen to it. So I still pop it in on occasion. It's all of his albums, at least from the ones in the early to mid 2000s, were exceptionally good. These beaches out here reminded me of him. He strikes me as the kind of guy, like, I don't know him, but he just like got into music because he just wanted to, you know, make that money, make enough money to buy a sack of weed and get your surfboard out to the bar. Maybe that's too reductive. I'm sure if you're making music for like 20 years or whatever, that you actually do enjoy the musical creation. But you know, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to be the next Justin Bieber to be successful. You can, you know, just make enough money for that sack of weed and your surfboard. Get on out there. Hit them waves and have a good time. All right. Fairly easy victory. That felt good. Felt good. I was suspecting we were going to be able to make those just big tempo plays with the Quietuses into Victor. It's just if your opponent's going to spend 8 mana on double Victors and you get to counterspell them with 2 mana and Quietuses, it's just such a big boost into whatever you're doing. All right, the game break though. Here we are. Pantheon Varus with a little bit of Taric in the mix. It's interesting. I'm curious to the point to where this fracture is good. The thing that strikes me as interesting is like the one cost unit, the one cost faded, and then it getting attached with equipment early. It would be stronger if we were on the odds, right? Or on the evens. And so if opponent plays the guy on turn 1, we can roll into turn 2 and then look to hit it with the one of the removal spells before they can just put like a direct equipment on it. They can still hit it with something like a Pale Cascade, but if they miss out on all that value, it feels like kind of a win. Interesting. I guess that does a lot, right? It keeps it out of the 1 health range where all of our stuff deals damage, and then it also lets him also lets him level up his Pantheon a little bit. I suspect this will be a Pale Cascade or another trick of some sort, but that's fine. My only thing with that turn is I'm not sure if we should have played Fracture instead of that spell. It's like, the opponent's clearly going to be dropping equipment at some point, and it is nice to have the Fracture for that equipment. But it just feels like he was playing into that a little too well. All right, well, there's Varus. He's out of momentous choices. He's gonna have a darkened bow. That's certainly incoming. But all right. Doesn't feel quite worth a turn for a 3 Sisters. We don't kill enough here. Could have killed the Saga Seeker maybe, but that doesn't feel like a big win.
They're out there. I'll spot them.
Now, I think what could be interesting here is it strikes me as the kind of person that's only going to be playing 1 copy of Varus, right? I bet he's playing like 3 copies of Pantheon, 2 copies of Taric, 1 copy of Varus, and then he's just trying to draw Varus off of the Cultist cards. So if we deal with the single Varus, I don't think we're going to have to worry about these like really big double overwhelm turns coming at us. And we'll be a little bit safer.
Anyone seen any sheep around here?
But should be able to start doing what our deck wants to do. Can't play Varus anymore. He dropped too low in mana. Let's see what happens. Unending Wave. I wonder if that means he just doesn't have any combat tricks in his hand.
Merely a vessel.
Interesting. And this spell shield's gonna drop. This only lasts for 1 turn. Not too worried about it. Not too worried, I tell you.
Please, I have connections. You have to get me out of here. Light the signal fires.
All right, Viego on board, fresh and ready. Always make sure your Viegos are both fresh and ready. It's a strategy people don't talk about enough. They just don't talk about it enough, you know? Fresh and ready. This is a fairly decent pass here. We have the unit stick around with the Viego attacking into Pantheon. Doesn't seem too special. We do have the Three Sisters Quietus combo if we need to come in and take down Pantheon. So I think that could be okay. Let's see if he gives us the free token. He's probably just going to take a point of damage. This, if he does take this block, it does keep us from getting the free unit at the start of next turn, but I think it's okay. I feel like we have enough. Right, if you don't lose any units at the end of your turn and you have that one dude around, Viego sees that thing die. It's the weird thing with the ephemerals. He sees it die, and then you get the free one at the start of next turn.
Beware those who have nothing to lose. Their purpose and mine is clear.
Okay, so can he ever kill us here with this Varus? Right, that's kind of scary thing number one. We can blow up the Darkened Bow on Varus, and then he doesn't get to get nearly as much attack. Feels like, I mean, I guess we do have to worry about the Taric to a degree. He's gonna pop off everything this turn. So I guess the real question we have is how likely is opponent to have a second spell shield thing? And I mean, it wouldn't surprise me as a person playing more than one copy, but it feels like the one that he played on the previous turn. It was kind of like a throwaway, but it feels like the one from the previous turn was something more along the lines of, I need to level up my Pantheon, and not just, hey, let me, spew these spells out here. It overwhelm. I mean, we can Shape of Fear the Encroaching Mists and then have enough health to survive this, right? Viego's down here with 2 health and we get an additional guy. Okay. We still have the Three Sisters on backup if we need it, but I think this one will be the big one in terms of shutting the game down. Viego's going to be doing some of that flipping if he survives the turn. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool, isn't it, Kitty? Got Kitty up here now. She'll say what up. Says, what up, Internet? I'm here to hang. I'm here to say what up. I'm here to hang.
I warn, there's a price to pay.
I mean, this deck shouldn't have ways to get additional attacks, right? We can eventually just pop this spell shield on Pantheon with our Fracture. We're only taking 2 damage off of the Varus. I think this is fine. Yeah, give me some of that Viego stuff next turn. Alright, so does he not even have Spell Shield? Okay, he did have Spell Shield. It's tough to see that with the Elusive stacked on top of it. Rip Pantheon. I guess we didn't need to do that. He was just going to die, right? That's not a circle ability. Maybe we can get out of this turn with a kill. Let's get another Encroaching Mist. We should at least be able to like just kill all of his units. He puts can't block thing onto his dude. That has to be because he has another Varus strike in hand, right? The Cultist strike. He's gonna try and strike something down with the can't block guy. Why would you do that though? Why wouldn't you just use Varus? It's very strange. Very strange, I tell you. Alright, GG. A little sloppy, but we got there at the end of the day.
I will take back what is mine. All of it.
You don't get to be the number one in the world. Number one in the world according to ftpbus.com. Without getting a little sloppy along the way. Oh man, do y'all need a sports update real quick? Marshall, they won their bowl game. Go us. The wife did not win her fantasy football game or have the points fall how she needed to make the playoffs, and so I'm actually in both of the playoffs. All of my teams did enough winning. They're bad. One of my teams is good. The one team that was kind of guaranteed to make the playoffs, I was on bye week with them on this last week, but another one is just complete dog shit. The other team was shittier this week than my team was. And so that's all it takes to get a victory sometimes, is just don't be as bad as the other person. That's always it's interesting to me in terms of like the skill level and skill things in poker, as to where you don't quite see it in games like Magic, and you don't see it in games like Legends of Runeterra, as to where, like, if you're playing poker, the goal in life is not to be the best player in the world. Like, I know that some people want to be the best player in the world, that's fine, but typically what you find is you're looking for a set of players to where you aren't the worst player at the table, right? You can sit down at a game of poker, and if you can figure out like the 2 or 3 or 4 people that are just worse than you, then you just go and try and take their money, and you don't try to get too involved, too invested with the people that you know are better than you. And it's kind of like an interesting dynamic in that sense, and you have this space to where you have this space to where you get a kind of option, a choice, in either, actively seeking out people that are worse than you so that you have an opportunity. We gotta just take this right. So you have the opportunity to win, to get those W's, and then you also have the opportunity to like play in games that you know that you're an underdog in, as a means to get better. It's strange. Like in playing games like this in Magic, it's like you just kind of get to people on the equal footing, but it's never quite. It's never quite the same in terms of like the people you're looking to seek and play against. All right, so this is a fairly awkward board. I think we're kind of stuck dropping Spirit Journeys this turn, but it doesn't feel good. Maybe we can just still move on to the next one. See if he spends a bunch of mana on anything here.
Pledge to the dark within.
All right. So we should be safe, right? The only way Kane Aatrox should be interacting with us is going to be a... Oh, that did not do what it intended whatsoever. Oops. I'm okay with the equipment coming off. I thought we were going to get a kill thing on one of these, and that was just not the case. Guess we should know better by this point, but oh, we are just going to get dumpstered now. That's not good. Take that play back. He's going to have the 3 attack into Kindred for the free kill. This is bad. He's just going to have the cultist combat trick for the full hat trick here. Yeah, that was sloppy. You at least got a lesson learned right there. Lesson learned. I swore that play worked. I thought that you could kill off your own Kindred to get that tick in, but clearly not the case. We would have certainly been in a better spot if we could have blocked with Viego and had him go on the Spirit Journey and then just had that bigger Kindred on board, but oof. Oof. Y'all get that learning in, though. So this will end up being our last one. We're getting right up to that hour mark. We usually play 8 today. We're just going to play 7. It's close. We're at that 50-minute mark as it is. I know I did a pretty big intro today. I probably eclipsed the 3-minute mark, and so it's pretty big time. All right, so I suspect this is has to just be the what do you call it? The acolyte deck, right? And I think we're fine to just kind of sit around and pass for a little bit. If we can get this Kindred on board, that should be a reasonable way to stop some of his plays. I was wanting to stop and see if we couldn't find a Vile Feast. Or not a Vile Feast. I wanted to see if he'd play an Acolyte so we could try and kill it with Vile Feast or kill it with Quietus. He might just be overly lacking on the landmark department, but their units grow so fast with the Acolytes that I kind of felt like we want to get our shot if we can. Let's not rush this into quicksand. Like I'm not, amped about him getting to pick up the sarcophagus. It's a little bit of a bummer, but oh damn it. Okay. Okay. Sad noises abound. I mean, he can't just be playing the Acolytes deck though now, right? He hasn't had nearly enough stuff. He hasn't played any of the build-around cards that would indicate he's playing it.
Let's put these rocks into motion.
All right, Talia's on board. Sure. She's a problem. I did the mathematics on if you could quiet us a Talia. You can't. We can Three Sisters Talia, or Three Sisters plus Quietus Talia if we want, but she's a little scary here. We should be able to develop some board though. I don't know. It's like as you see the atrocity come in, you're just kind of like, oof, maybe that's the angle, maybe that's the path. But let's see. I wanna get some of these encroaching mists going, and I mean, as it stands, our Viego is just big enough to block Talia. If she wants to come in and do the strike, she's gonna get the 6 damage onto Viego, and then he should be enough to take her down. Like we can Three Sisters her as a way to take away some of this. But see what happens. I think I'm okay at the end of the day to just trade away Viego for Talia, and then it would just be like a superstar win if he invests in like we block and then he plays the Absolver. Interesting. Okay. Still don't think we want him getting the sarcophagus on the board. There's the big overwhelm. So like it's just like Hydrovine's not super compelling here. And our Viego's too small. I mean, we can look to Entomb Talia. That's like a little scary against this deck. If he has a second Talia to copy the first Talia, we're really going to struggle there. He only has 2 mana at this point, though. Maybe we just count on the Three Sisters onto Viego. And then we'll have a Hydrovine for next turn. So we can make Viego a +3/+4 He'll die to Talia, sure, but if we get the kill on her, buys us some time.
You matter so little. Please, I have connections.
Okay, so again, we lose Viego. That's okay. Don't take too much damage here. Now, with this block down here with the Hapless Aristocrat and the Spiderling, I wanted to have a second target for the Darkened Halberd. If we only have one unit on the board, we can't do anything with the Halberd, but if we spread our units across, then we can get it on board.
Point the way.
Talia number 2. I guess I guess we're pretty glad that we didn't make the we didn't make that big play onto Talia. We didn't entomb her.
Trust me, I know what I'm doing.
All right, not looking good. Not looking good. We can block one and then atrocity the other to not die here, but this is definitely a definitely slipping away. Definitely assume he's just going to open attack. Okay. Oh. The Arsenal. I haven't seen you in a while, friend. And he hits elusive. He hits elusive spell shield. Alright, I definitely don't miss those days. I think that game was probably done anyways, but that's certainly a way to go. I miss you, Arsenal. The changes to the Arsenal are why I kind of quit playing Talia Ziggs, and so good set of games though. And so, you know, interesting battles. Again, it's unfortunate that we didn't get to play too much against Aatrox Vayne. We didn't get to play too much against Seraphine. We only got one game against each, and we did punt that game against Aatrox, which is, you know, learning for you, but whoopsies for me. But I think that's, you know, it brings forth a very interesting aspect of this format. I shouldn't say this format, I should say this game in general. And it's something I tried to bring up in the previous video, playing Gangplank Sejuani is another deck that's, you know, pretty strong against the Aatrox Veins, is that if you look at, you know, the way that these metas fall out and the way that the stats go, I mean, we can pull it up real quick, I think. And so the thing that always gets me is in terms of play rates, right? I tried to pull it up in Hearthstone. I don't subscribe to the thing, and so I can't quite pull it up. It looks like in Magic, the current most played standard deck is at like 22% of the meta. The next most common deck is at 14, and then the next most common deck is at 9. And so that accounts for almost half of the meta, right? About 45% of the meta is comprised of 3 decks. And then if you go over and look at Legends of Runeterra, this is what has always struck me as kind of odd, right? The current de facto best deck of the format is Aatrox Vayne, only sitting at a 13% play rate. And then the next 2 most common ones, Ezreal Seraphine at 8.5%, Aatrox Kayn at 8%. And so you can, to a degree, just say, okay, let's just like lump all of these Aatrox decks together. And that gets us up to about a 20%er, which is, you know, fairly similar to Magic. But it kind of like falls off from the rest of there. And even if you don't do that, if you're looking to get up to that 45% mark, like we just saw, like this is, I don't know, just call it 12, 22, like 32. Looks like we're going to have to play like the top 4 or 5 decks. And even there, like after you fall out of the top 5 deck at Jinx Draven, everything is like 2% or less of play rate. And so it's just like such an extremely small collection of play rate that if you do look to kind of say, okay, well, I want to counter Aatrox Vayne, you don't play it enough, right? You don't play it frequently enough. So if you're, say, have a deck that has a 75% win rate against Aatrox Vayne, 25% win rate against everything else, it's going to get smoked against everything else because that the play rate with Aatrox Vayne just isn't high enough to really warrant it. And so, there's some people that like this aspect of the meta to where things are so varied. There's people that don't like it because you can't really design counter decks because you don't really play those decks frequently enough to where the counter is relevant. But what I'm trying to come at with this point is that with like Gangplank Sejuani in the previous day, that's a deck that is quite good against the remainder of the format. It doesn't have that like 75-25% win rate against the Aatrox decks. It's much closer to 50-50, but it still has a lot of game against all the other stuff, to where if you look at a deck like Ash LeBlanc, that is one of those 75% win rate decks that just absolutely cannot win against things like Ash. It can't win against like Katarina Gwen. It can't win against Pirates. It can't win against any of the aggro decks of the format. And that's where we kind of like cycle back to Kindred Viego here, as to where, we did hold our own against a lot of those aggro decks of the format. We played Red Gwen twice and managed to secure victory both times. The games were close, but we were able to pull them off. And so that this deck does have, game against the rest of the field. The place that this worries me is not so much playing against things like Seraphine Victor. That tends to be more of a kind of like grind fest of a deck. Our Kindred Viego here should 100% get smoked by Ezreal Seraphine. And so that is where you have point of worry. This is why Kindred and Viego have really kind of fallen off the map in the previous couple of months of play, is because they just get completely annihilated by Ezreal. And so it takes that aspect of the deck away from it. And so, if the way things are going right now, I feel like this is a pretty reasonable deck if you like to do your grinding with the Shadow Isles removal spell style decks of the format. Then you have something here. Viego should be kind of fine. He's good now against the likes of the various Aatrox decks, and hopefully the Seraphine decks just won't be there in enough quantity to bring you down. And so, it's interesting. I think it's a good deck for you. It was a good deck for me. I typically hate playing things like Kindred, and we still had a pretty good run at it. And so, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. And so I hope everybody enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. So this is Bust, and we thank you for being here.